Hey everyone, welcome to Breakout Wednesdays, October the 30th, 2019. It's about 10 p.m. Perth time, 10 a.m. New York time on a Wednesday morning, and it's very, very early, say 1 a.m. Sydney time on Thursday morning. So sorry about the lateness, guys. I've been using PC Macs for ages and pretty much my whole life, and I've been upgrading my computers every year on a pretty consistent basis. I've got a fair few computers and screens I use, but they've just been letting me down time and time again. So I finally upgraded to a Mac, and I've got a Mac and then a bunch of a few screens that come off that, and I've gone the best option I could come up with, and it's taken me a while to set it all up and get running smoothly. So I've wasted a lot of hours today trying to set it all up since the stuff arrived on Monday. So anyway, hopefully everything's a lot clearer now though, and hopefully the quality of the videos is going to increase and a lot, and that would be cool. All right, so look, this is a chart of the Nasdaq, and the Nasdaq obviously has broken up above this range, and it's had a little pullback, and now it's consolidating. So what I'm hoping is that this won't kind of break back down into that range. It's going to consolidate on top of the range and then push away from there. So that would be good. The Nasdaq chart, the Nasdaq index has really been led by the massive stocks, and the big stocks, the Apples of the world. And I've talked about Apple a lot. I won't go over it again, but JP Morgan too is kind of leading the US market higher, and so the banks in the US are definitely kind of even leading the Aussie banks. Like if you look at the Aussie banks, they're not looking strong. Not looking weak by any stretch of the imagination. If we put our moving averages on, they're all above most of the key moving averages and trending up. But JP Morgan and a few of the big banks in America are looking a bit stronger. So look, the American market, if we flick to Aussie, the American market's leading the Aussie market. The American market's reaching new all-time highs, and the Aussie market's still range bound. So hopefully the Aussie market will play some catch up and break up above this range here and make new all-time highs and keep on from there. But it's just a matter of wait and see. It's been the last few months it's been hard trading the Aussie market. So if you haven't done all that well, don't be hard on yourself, because there hasn't been an easy market to trade. It's been a lot of false breakouts and therefore small losses to for breakout momentum traders. Okay, so I'm going to go through some scans that I really fill in today. Okay, but before I get to that, a few other things happening in the States. So semiconductor stocks are looking good. So I'm just going to touch on a few things. So Teradyne, they make chips and the semiconductor stock, and they're making new all-time highs, and we had a big breakaway gap here to making all-time highs. And another one, Nvidia is starting to trend up. And so these are kind of, Nvidia's related to Bitcoin. They make chips that go into they do a bunch of things, but one of the things they do is they make little chips that go into the machines that you can mine Bitcoin with. We've had I don't have a Bitcoin chart up here at the moment, but Bitcoin's had a big run over the last week. It's up about 10-15%. So I'm bullish on Bitcoin long term. I won't go into that, but there's amazing software behind it, and that's enough of that for now. Okay, moving on to just a few other things that are happening. Social media stocks getting hammered. Twitter has put out some bad reports, but this thing, after this false breakout here from this base, that I actually traded that, and then I got out for I think break even, I forget, small loss maybe, but since then this thing's just been absolutely hammered. And that's why these false breakouts are, if you can be a trader that fades false breakouts can give you such a good signal. If a nice base forms and it breaks up and then violently breaks down, that's really telling you something. And this stock's just getting hammered. I'm not sure where I've been reading a lot about Twitter lately. I'm not sure where the growth in Twitter is going to come from. We've had Trump tweeting out 1 million times a day, and you think that it would be a great environment for Twitter to do well right now, yet they're still managing to do really bad. So maybe the run of social media stocks is over, and Facebook itself, it's just been cruising sideways. It's got a lot more going on Facebook obviously than Twitter does, but owns Instagram and all that sort of stuff. But I don't know. So part of me says that the old leaders, the Facebooks, the next bull run's going to have maybe have a new bunch of leaders, and so I'm certainly on the lookout for what are they going to be? What are the new leaders going to be? Okay, and so okay, so I'm going to just move on quickly. I'm just going to rattle through some of the trades I've been talking about lately. Just it's good to give a quick update of where we're at. I'm not going to touch on many of them for long because a lot of them are still playing out. RUL I talked about last week. I entered. I'm out of half of it up here, and it's been going down since then. I wish I sold all of it, but I've still got half of it left, and we're going to play around with that and see what happens there. But I'm out of half of that, so that's cool. Cut, which I talked about ages ago, it's just this beautiful setup. I got out of half of that. I'm still in the other half. I'm just waiting patiently for that to do its thing. I see no reason to sell the other half of that at this point in time. It's a pretty liquid stock, so I'm getting into the room and it's just chopping about. Hopefully that continues on its merry way. IFN, no, that's the wrong one. IFN, so this is one of this is probably the worst trade lately. It's probably actually the best setup out of all of them, and it's the one that isn't going well. I managed to get out of half of that when it's just kind of up here, and I think it was 65.5 cents. I've still got the other half. I'm probably going to get stopped out on that when it breaks below 64. So that is life, and that one is going to be a losing trade. A small loss in the first half, and there's going to be the full 1% loss on the second half of that if that breaks down below 0.64. But maybe it goes up and doesn't break down, but it looks like it's going to break down at this point. So that's the way it goes. ATL. This is the one I hardly got any feel on, and so it's a small position, but I'm still got that small position. I see no reason to sell that at this point in time. It hasn't broken heavily down. The stops are down here, okay, and so still letting that play out. I'll follow that up another week. CM8 still in and being patient, but I've still got my entire position on that one. CSL still long with the entire position on that one. That one's going great guns, and Cochlear I'm still in as well. We had this violent breakdown here, but I just held that. I'm using my 200-day moving average here, which is the black line. So Cochlear is still in. All right, so just quickly moving on. There's a scan that I like doing every week, okay, and I need to actually go into it because I've got it preset, but it'll just automatically run if I click that, so I just need to go into the box. So it's a weekly Darvas scan, and this is probably, it's just really, really good for finding big bases in stocks, okay? And so you don't have to do it every day because it's a weekly scan. Just do it once a week, once every 2 weeks, something like that. I'm just going to click any box, and what I'm going to do is just cancel and just go into my everyday scan because I forget how it's set. Oh, sorry, it just went for it. Okay, but how that is set is I go to Darvas, scan the Darvas box scan, and I literally just have any box. I get these values really low. You can see how it's set. And I think I sometimes even just unclick the percent thing, okay, because I don't really care about the volume that was formed at the start of the box or before the start of the box. I really more just care about what that box is looking like and how tight and that base is and all that sort of stuff. Okay, so let's cancel that one. Now I'm just going to run through some of our some of the scans, some of the boxes that have come up inside this scan. Okay, let's just wait for the scan to finish. It's a pretty quick scan. It scans 3,000 stocks and finds me about 100 probably. All right, so now I can't run through this whole thing because we'll be here ages, but what I'm going to do is just run through, that's not one, and just run through some stocks that have come up in here and just touch upon them. Okay, so now let's just move down. Sorry, give me a second. All right, so now Cochlear did come up in a Darvas scan, but it's just not coming up in that particular one. I must have set it in a different setting earlier. So anyway, Cochlear has come up in a Darvas scan, and this is just a big leading healthcare stock. and it's in a long-term uptrend. It's made a new all-time high. It's had a pullback. It's forming a relatively tight Darvas box here, and so this is just something that I've already got a position in this to start with, and it's a smallish one. I'm holding it, and then if this can just base in this box for ages, then I'd probably add to that on a break of all-time highs. Okay, so moving on to the next one. So let's just go down to Fortescue. All right, so Fortescue, we can see the Darvas box here. It's had this massive run up here from $3.70 or whatever, all the way up to $9.55. Okay, and most people think this thing's gone too high. Maybe it has, who the hell knows, but all I know right now is it's sitting in a huge Darvas box. It's on a weekly set-in, and if this can just continue to consolidate and then break up above 9.55, then that could be the start of the next big move. I live in WA, and I've got a lot of friends in the mining industry. I know I've got quite a lot of friends that work for Fortescue, and they're all telling me how busy they are and how things are picking up, and it reminds them of 15 years ago or whatever. So I'm certainly not going to turn my back on Fortescue. I learned many years ago that these mining stocks can go up 3, 4, 500%, and a lot higher than anyone really thinks they can. Okay, so I'll keep an eye on them. GPT is another one. It's just sitting in this weekly Darvas box. It's just chopping sideways and just annoying the hell out of its owners. You got your really weak hands selling because they're just getting so impatient, and the stock, and all the kind of smart, strong holders have just been patient and holding it. And so if this thing can just keep chopping sideways, one day wakes up and breaks up, then it could be a good, investment or long-term trade. But I tend to view these Darvas box breakouts as, looking at more big moves than these things. There's this old saying, the bigger the base, the bigger the move. And so with these weekly Darvas scans, I'm looking for big bases, and then hopefully being patient and getting a big move out of that. Okay, so there's heaps more in here. I'm not going to run through all of them, but let's just look at IFM. It's in its third Darvas box now on a weekly data, and this one looks nice. I mean, it's been cruising sideways for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9 weeks. If we have a look on daily data, it looks nice as well. And weekly data, it looks super nice. Okay, and so that I'd say is nearly, it's nearly an all-time high, and so that is a nice setup, IFM. Now let's just keep going. I'm just going to stop at some point when we get to about 15-20 minutes, whatever. But that is not the stock I wanted to touch on. All right, so KSL was the next one. So I don't know too much about this company. I'd probably be doing a fair bit of reading on it before I invest it. But this is relatively. Let me have a look. Yeah, so this is a relatively new company, and it's sitting at all-time highs at the top of the Darvas box at $1.52. Okay, on daily data, this stock is forming a nice base, and on weekly data, it's forming a super nice base. Look at the on-balance volume on the weekly; it's a lot weaker. Actually, it's weak on the daily too. So let's just have a look at this big down day here. Okay, so obviously we had a down day and huge volume. So I'd be looking at the announcements and the news and trying to figure out what happened on that day. It was an exchange or whatever, okay, and trying to see what went on, all right. But I'm certainly not scared off from this stock just because of the one big day volume spike down. Okay, this is a nice base, and it's forming at all-time highs, and I would be spending time researching this and figuring out, this is a growth stock. Does it have revenue that's growing aggressively? Is the revenue growing by a minimum of kind of 25-30% quarter on quarter? And is it growing, but hopefully a lot higher than that year on year? And, they actually make you money, or is it just a a full-on risky stock company that with actually no revenue. If it's got revenue and it's growing and this is a real business, then that's the sort of thing that I would be really looking to, to go hard on the break of $1.52. So it's that one. Now there's heaps, this Darvas scan, it just keeps you so busy with stocks. Okay, I'm just going to find another one here. Okay, so another one that came up in that scan, IMA. So this is a forming a Darvas box scan. I think I traded this guy back here on this tight base breakout, and so it's forming another one. And I guess I found this one on the weekly chart, but on a daily chart, I like the weekly Darvas box, but I also just like this tighter pattern with inside it. Okay, and so. But the fact is, this is where I like spending my time looking for stocks, because most of these stocks in weekly Darvas scans, they're already in strong uptrends. Okay, and so that's where I want to spend my time. I'm not really playing around with laggards and dog stocks which are below the all the moving averages like this, unless I'm going to short them. I just think that I'd rather bet on winning horses rather than horses with pulled hammies and stuff. All right, so moving on, just a couple more before we call it a day. So not that one. Let's just Macquarie Bank. It's one of these stocks that I like, and it's in a weekly Darvas box. Okay, and so I don't necessarily think that this is the correct stock to be buying on a breakout to new all-time highs. I think it always has pullbacks. It always has pullbacks of like 10 to 15%. So for me, with these big banks, I tend to like to buy them on pullbacks more than breakouts, even though I love breakout trading, obviously. But it doesn't mean if this thing breaks out, it certainly, to me, would be like, whoa, okay, I want to own this thing now. This thing's in a long-term uptrend. It's just broken a weekly Darvas box, okay? And then I would put it in a watch list as one to buy on the next market pullback, okay? And then we have a market pullback of 10 to 15%, and Macquarie Group is one that I would be buying on that market weakness. Okay, all right, and so just a couple more and then we are done. So PCK. So the weekly Darvas scans, it's not, I like looking. The whole point is bases, and I'm looking for stocks that are just basing and ready to launch higher. Okay, PCK. I don't know if this thing's ever going to launch higher, but it's forming a Darvas box. It's been there for a few weeks now. I'll whack that in a watch list and see if it can stay in for in that box for a lot longer. And then it's just one of these stocks that with big volume, and it's relatively new company doing exciting things, and so if it can stay in that box for quite a long time, then break up, it could be set for a huge move. And the last one that I'll talk about just now is I'm just having a few issues with this. Okay, so the last one is RHP. So RHP is just, you sit in this Darvas box. It's pretty choppy and ugly, this data, big wicks down here, and whacking everyone out and all that sort of stuff. But this thing's been in an uptrend, and it's been going sideways for months and months now. And let's just have a look at the daily chart. The daily chart looks ugly. I mean, it's a big base, and it's big wild movements, pretty hard to trade. However, if this thing can tighten and chill out a bit, and on balance volume can pick up, this is a long way away from being a tradable stock. Okay, but it's it's starting to form a nice base. All right, so look, everyone, with those Darvas box scans, a lot of the stocks aren't actually at buy points, or I'm not actually ready to move on any of them, but they're forming big bases, and and then they're starting to look interesting, and so I just whack them a watch list and watch them carefully. Okay, a few other stocks I'm watching is EWC. Okay, forming a nice base. I'm looking for this thing to tighten, looking for some volume to come in, and the on-bench volume to move up, and to have some big volume days, coming in on the breakout. But we've certainly had volume dry up, and we've certainly have a nice base and resistance here to work off. Okay, so I'm just looking for a big move on big volume through that resistance at some point in time. Okay, another few I'm watching. I find Crown interesting. It's just forming this tight base here, and there was a lot of negative stuff that came out about Crown. Maybe all the negative stuff's done. who knows? But I'm kind of interested in the technical scenario here, and I think it might be not the world's worst bet to if this breaks out of this tight range. I think risk rewards not too bad on a position, a stop down here below these lows, and I think this has a chance of making 2 to 3 to 1 on that. Okay, so look, there's heaps more out there, guys. There's so many trades. It's really hard to go through them all in this one talk, but that's it for now. I'll chat next week. Bye.